I've talked plenty of Jaden Daniels and how I am all in on the Vikings trading up for this guy, landing the Heisman winner out of LSU. I hope it happens. However, when it comes to the draft, you can't put all your eggs in one basket. You got to have a backup plan. And I've mentioned these guys off and on before, the second tier of quarterbacks after Daniels, JJ McCarthy out of Michigan, and Michael Penix Jr. out of Washington. Well, what bigger stage to see both of these guys in live action competing against each other than the national championship game, which we all saw last night. I was very excited going into that game, only to be ultimately disappointed. That was so bad. It went from, okay, maybe you stand pat and take one of these guys at 11 if Daniels is gone, or maybe you can get these guys in the second round. Let me be very clear. After what I saw last night, I wouldn't draft either of these guys, McCarthy or Penix Jr., in the first round. You can get these guys in the second round. Their stock has fallen like crazy. JJ McCarthy, quite honestly, might be better off going back to Michigan, going back to school for another year, opposed to declaring for the draft. And Penix Jr., he's been dealing with injuries his whole career. And you saw it last night. One of his offensive linemen stepped on his ankle and he was hobbling all around. He was beat the hell up. On top of that, wildly inaccurate with his throws. If Jaden Daniels is gone, this changes everything. You go from, all right, what do we got to do to trade up, to the fourth spot from Arizona, to now you can, dare I say, trade down a few spots. Because here's the thing. If you're going to go McCarthy and Penix, you only draft them in the second round. I don't feel good enough to only have those guys, one of those two players, as my second round pick. I personally would trade down from 11 just a few spots, enough to where you can get an additional second round pick, because you got to plan for the possible failure of this project. McCarthy or Penix, this might not work out. And the last thing we need is, all right, we use our second round pick on one of these guys. We don't pick again until 104 in the fourth round. Absolutely not. Trade down just enough to where you can get an additional second round pick. And in the first round, you shift your focus from quarterback to best player available. And I'm looking at Jazon Newton, defensive tackle out of Illinois, Chop Robinson, edge rusher out of Penn State, or Laiatu Latu, edge rusher out of UCLA. And in the second round, after you draft Penix or McCarthy, and if any other team wants to take a chance on those guys in the first quarter or in the first round, fine. No sweat off my back. Take somebody else in the later rounds. I don't care anymore. Gear up for 2025. But that additional second round pick, I'm looking at guys like Zach Frazier, center out of West Virginia, or Leonard Taylor, defensive tackle out of Miami. It changes everything. Quite honestly, if you really want to address the quarterback position and feel good about it, it's really, realistically speaking, Jaden Daniels or bust. But JJ McCarthy, he's a guy who can make plays. Nothing really pops out on his game tape. He's just a solid football player. But what we saw last night was a guy who he played at a pedestrian level. And Michael Penix Jr., I don't know what else there is to say about. I wouldn't draft either of these guys in the first round, to where at least you can get some solid players in this draft still without sacrificing players, especially taking McCarthy or Penix at 11, or only with that sole 42 pick that you have in the second round. It shifts the focus. Trade down, get an additional second round pick, and cross your fingers with if you end up having to select one of these guys.